I didn't used to lock my bedroom door at night. The front door, sure. The little deadbolt on the back door to the yard. Yeah. I wasn't stupid. But the bedroom door felt like overkill. Like the sort of thing only paranoid people did. Now, I can't even sit with my back to a door if it isn't locked. This started with a traffic stop that shouldn't have been a big deal. Ordinary Tuesday night, almost midnight, cold air, empty road. I was driving home from the grocery store with a bag of cheap stuff on the passenger seat. Instant noodles, some canned soup, a frozen pizza. I remember that clearly because I keep thinking about how pathetic it was that this was my last normal night. No big party, no life-changing moment. Just me, cheap food, and a low gas tank. It was dark, and the stretch of road I take home has no streetlights for a few kilometers. Farm fields and patches of trees on both sides. No houses, no businesses. Just a long, empty run connecting the main road to the suburbs. I was tired and driving too fast. When the blue lights flicked on in my rearview mirror, they came out of nowhere. No siren, just lights. They lit up the inside of my car, blue-white flashes bouncing off the windshield and the rearview mirror. I felt that punch of guilt in my stomach. I slowed, pulled over to the gravel shoulder, heart already speeding up. I turned down the music. It was one of those dumb playlists I always skip through and never update. I remember the song that was playing. Something with a lot of bass that suddenly felt too loud and childish. I rolled down my window as the police car pulled up behind me. I watched in the side mirror. Regular-looking car, black and white, light bar across the top, a big metal push bumper in front. The headlight on one side was slightly dimmer, like it was old or dirty. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He didn't rush. It was this slow, steady walk toward me along the shoulder. Left hand resting on the belt, right hand holding a flashlight. I remember thinking that his movements looked rehearsed, like he'd practiced in a mirror. When he got closer, I could see his face in the side mirror, and then, when he came up to my window, in the flicker of his flashlight, he looked normal. That's the worst part. He wasn't some wild-eyed weirdo. Maybe early 40s. Short brown hair, a bit of gray around the temples, clean shaven, average height, average build. He wore a dark uniform shirt with a badge and a name tag. The badge caught the light when he leaned down. "Evening," he said. His voice was calm, friendly almost. My throat was dry. "Evening. You know why I stopped you?" he asked. "I was speeding," I said. "I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention." He smiled a little. Honest. I appreciate that. He angled the flashlight so it lit up my dashboard and my hands on the steering wheel. "License and registration, please." I went for my wallet, then the glove box. I remember being nervous in that ordinary way. Not terrified, just annoyed at myself. I handed him my license and registration. "Hang tight," he said, and walked back to his car. I sat there with the window partly open, feeling the cold air creep in. I checked the time on the dash. I had work early the next morning. I was thinking about how I couldn't afford a ticket right now. In the side mirror, I could see him in his car. He had his head down, like he was looking at a computer or paperwork. The lights kept flashing, painting the trees and the field in that pulsing blue. I don't know how long he was back there. Time is weird when you're sitting alone on the side of a dark road. Maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5. I started to get more annoyed. Is he writing the ticket? Just give it to me already. He came back to my window. I rolled it down a little more. The cold air hit me. He handed me my license and registration. "All right, Alex," he said, glancing at my card before he gave it back. "I'm going to let you off with a warning tonight, but I need you to slow down through here. People walk along this road sometimes. You come around a bend too fast, you won't see them." Relief rushed through me. "Yeah, of course. Thank you. I really appreciate it." He paused there a second, watching me. His eyes were light-colored, maybe blue, maybe gray. His expression didn't change much, but I felt like he was studying me, like I wasn't just some random car he pulled over. "Where you headed?" he asked, casual. "Home," I said. "Over in Maple Ridge." "That's a good area," he said. "Quiet, safe." "Yeah, it's nice." He nodded once. "You live alone?" That felt a bit more personal than a traffic stop needed, but I nodded automatically. "Yeah." He kept watching me. Then he smiled again. "Just be careful, all right? At night. Lock your doors. Not everyone out here is a good guy." I gave an awkward laugh. "Yeah, sure, I will." He tapped the top of the car once, like it was some kind of signal that we were done. "You're good to go. Just take it slow." He walked back to his cruiser. I put the car in gear, checked my mirrors, and pulled back onto the road. My hands on the wheel were a little shaky, but mostly I felt lucky. No ticket. Just a warning and some weird small talk. I watched his car in the rearview mirror for a bit. The lights were off now. He just sat there on the shoulder. I turned a corner and lost sight of him. By the time I got home, I'd mostly forgotten about him. I put my groceries away, microwaved some soup, scrolled on my phone. Normal stuff. If I'd known then, I wouldn't have gone to bed. I wouldn't have gone home. I don't know what I would have done, but it wouldn't have been that. The next morning I told my coworker about it. I work at a little hardware store. It's not exciting, but it pays just enough to keep the rent paid and the fridge half full. My coworker, Tyler, is the type who loves stories about cops and crime. He watches those documentary shows where they have dramatic music over grainy footage. He whistled when I told him. "Dude, you got lucky. They've been cracking down on that whole stretch lately. My cousin got nailed with a ticket last month." "Yeah, he just gave me a warning," I said. He was weirdly friendly. "Older guy?" Tyler asked. "Short hair, kind of serious face?" "Yeah," I said. "You know him?" Tyler shrugged. "I've seen him around. Comes in here sometimes. Cops get discounts, you know. He bought one of those big flashlights last week. The heavy ones? Could probably knock someone out with that thing." He said it like a joke. I laughed because that's what you do. "What's his name?" I asked. "No idea," Tyler said. "He paid with cash." The day went on. Customers came and went. An old lady asked about lawn fertilizer like it was a life or death decision. A guy argued with me for 10 minutes about a return policy on a screwdriver he'd clearly used and broken himself. By the time my shift ended, I'd pretty much forgotten about the cop again. He was just another stranger I'd probably never see again. I drove home before it was fully dark. I made a frozen pizza. I watched some mindless show and then went to bed. I didn't lock the bedroom door. I didn't even think about it. 2 nights later, I saw his car again. It was later this time. I'd stayed late at work to help Tyler count inventory, and then we'd grabbed some greasy burgers from the place down the street. I drove home on the same route, same dark road, fields and trees on either side. This time I checked my speed more carefully. My eyes kept flicking to the speedometer. No lights behind me. No cars at all, actually. Just my headlights and the dark. I came up on the little side road that leads toward the industrial park. That's where the cops like to sit sometimes during the day, tucked in where you can't see them until you're right there. At night, it's usually empty. This time there was a car parked there. No lights on, just a dark shape. I squinted as I passed. It was a black and white cruiser. Same push bumper, same faded headlight. I felt the muscles in my shoulders tighten. I checked my speed again. Perfectly legal. I glanced in the rear view. For a moment, nothing happened. The car stayed where it was. Then the headlights flicked on. The car pulled out behind me. My stomach dropped. I told myself I wasn't speeding. I hadn't done anything wrong. But the car stayed behind me. Same distance. Not close enough to be tailgating. Not far enough to feel casual. The longer it stayed there, the more aware I was of every tiny movement of my own car. My palms got damp on the steering wheel. I kept waiting for the blue lights, but they didn't come. The road curved toward town. Houses started to appear. Streetlights. A gas station. The cruiser stayed behind me. I turned onto the street that leads into my neighborhood. He turned too. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence. Cops patrol neighborhoods. That's normal. I turned onto my street. He turned again. My mouth went dry. My house is near the end of the block. 5 houses from the corner, on the right. Small, 1-story white siding. If you drive past it, it's easy to miss. I slowed, flicked my blinker on, turned into my driveway. The cruiser kept going. It rolled past my house, slow. As it went by, I saw his face for a second, lit by the dash lights. The same man, the same calm expression. He didn't look at me directly. He just stared ahead, like he was on a regular patrol. The car kept going down the block, turned at the end, and disappeared. I sat in my driveway for a minute, engine running, keys still in the ignition, breathing fast. I told myself I was overreacting. He was a cop. This is what they do, right? They patrol. Still, I stayed there sitting in the car until my neighbor's porch light came on and their door opened. The old man from next door stepped out to take his trash to the bin. When I saw another human being, I finally moved. I turned off the engine, grabbed my bag, and went inside. I locked the front door, sliding the deadbolt with extra force. Then I locked the back door. I checked the windows, the curtains. I went to the bedroom, stood in the doorway, and stared at the knob. Then, for the first time, I locked my bedroom door. I told myself it was just for tonight. The next day, the story hit the news. I was at the store again, stocking shelves with boxes of nails. The TV we keep in the corner was on, playing the local news on low volume. We always keep it on some channel. Customers like having something to glance at while they wait. I wasn't paying attention until I heard the word body. Body was discovered early this morning along County Line Road. I turned. The anchor was saying the words with that fake, serious tone they use. The screen showed an image of the road, the one I drive every day. Police tape fluttering in the breeze. A couple of cruisers parked at weird angles. The angle of the shot made it look oddly flat, like it could have been any road. But I knew it. Tyler noticed me staring. "You see that?" he asked. "Turn it up," I said. He grabbed the remote and hit the volume button a few times. The victim, who has not yet been identified, appears to be a man in his 20s, according to sources. Authorities have not released the cause of death, but say foul play is suspected. The body was found just after dawn by a driver pulling over with car trouble. They switched to a shaky clip of a reporter standing near the road. Behind her, there were flashes of uniforms moving around. One of them, out of focus, had short brown hair and a dark uniform. It could have been him. It could have been any of them. Tyler whistled. "Damn. That's creepy. That's right near where you got pulled over, isn't it?" "Yeah," I said quietly. He elbowed me. "Maybe that cop saved your life. Dude could have been out there while some killer was on the loose." The idea stuck in my head. Some unseen killer out there in the dark while I stood on the side of the road with my license in my hand. I tried to imagine it, but my mind kept circling back to the same thought, and it made me feel sick. That cop had been there, on that road, at that time. What if he hadn't saved anybody? What if he was the reason there was a body? I swallowed and shook my head. It felt wrong thinking that. People online say stuff about crooked cops all the time, but this wasn't a video or some story I could scroll past. This was real life. My life. The rest of the day I kept glancing at the TV whenever they mentioned it again. They repeated the same information, over and over. Unidentified male. Foul play. Investigation ongoing. Police ask anyone with information to come forward. Each time they showed that road, that patch of gravel, that police tape. I started to get jumpy whenever a customer came in wearing dark clothes. When someone asked me where the zip ties were, I had to force my voice not to shake. By the time my shift ended, I didn't want to drive home alone. I almost asked Tyler if he wanted to get dinner again, but he was already halfway out the door, waving over his shoulder. "See you, man," he called. "Don't get murdered." "Huh. Yeah," I said weakly. I sat in my car in the parking lot for a while, staring at the steering wheel. I thought about taking the longer route home, the one that goes past all the fast food places and traffic lights. More people, more light. I opened the Maps app on my phone, staring at the little lines. The longer route would add 15 minutes. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I was tired. I wanted to go home. I took my usual way. The sun was already low, turning the sky a dull orange. By the time I hit the stretch of road where they'd found the body, it was almost fully dark. I drove slower than usual. My eyes scanned the roadside. The police tape was gone. Whatever had happened there, they'd cleaned it up. The only sign was a darker patch in the gravel, like something had soaked into it and dried. Maybe oil. Maybe something else. I forced my gaze forward. At one point, my headlights lit up a shape on the side of the road. For a second, my heart jumped. Someone standing there. But then I realized it was just a road sign leaning at an angle. No police cars. No flashing lights. Just quiet. I made it home. I locked all the doors. I locked the bedroom again. That night, I woke up 3 times to sounds that turned out to be the fridge, the pipes, the wind. Each time my heart felt like it was going to punch through my ribs. In the morning, I had bags under my eyes. The second body showed up 3 days later. By then, the first one had a name. Mark Delgado, 23, worked at a warehouse on the other side of town. The news played a picture of him, smiling in a hoodie, arms around 2 friends. They showed it over and over until I felt like I knew him. The headline on my phone that morning made my stomach flip. Second body found. Possible link to earlier death. I sat at my tiny kitchen table, coffee cooling in my hand, staring at the screen. They'd found this one behind a closed-down gas station not far from the first spot. Same general area. Early morning again. Another driver, another body. Details were thin. Similar circumstances. Police not ruling out connection. That kind of thing. My brain filled in the blanks on its own. I went to work. The store felt too bright. Customers seemed louder. Tyler was in his usual mood, making dumb jokes about serial killers. "You hear about it?" he asked. "Man, we need to start selling security cameras and baseball bats." "Can we not?" I muttered. He laughed, then caught my expression. "Hey, I'm just messing around, dude. You all right?" "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." He nodded, accepting that too easily. Around mid-morning, the bell over the door jingled. I looked up from the register. For a second, I thought my brain was playing tricks on me. He walked in like he belonged there. No hesitation. Dark uniform, badge, radio on his shoulder, boots squeaking softly on the linoleum. Same short brown hair, same neat shave. He took off his hat as he came in, tucked it under his arm. "Morning," he said, heading toward the counter. My mouth went dry. My hands froze over the keyboard. Tyler perked up. "Hey, officer. Back for more gear?" The cop, if that's even what he was, gave a small smile. "You guys are useful. We like useful places." He stopped at the counter, right in front of me. His eyes flicked to my name tag. "Alex," he said. "How's the driving?" For a second, I didn't understand. Then it hit me. The traffic stop. Fine," I said. "I've been taking it slow." "Good," he said. "I'd hate to see you wrapped around a tree somewhere." The way he said it sounded almost kind, like a concerned friend. But there was something about the way his eyes lingered on my face, like he was cataloging it. He looked around the store. "You have any more of those heavy-duty flashlights? The metal ones. I bought one last week." Tyler jumped in. "Yeah, aisle 3. I'll show you." They walked off together. I watched them go, my heart pounding. I told myself to calm down. He was a cop. Of course he'd come into a hardware store. Of course he'd buy flashlights. That's normal. They need tools like anyone else. Still, my body didn't believe my brain. They came back a few minutes later. He had another flashlight in hand, still in the packaging. He set it down on the counter. The thing looked like a small steel club. I scanned it. My fingers trembled slightly on the scanner. "Cash or card?" I asked. He took out his wallet. It was thin, worn leather. He peeled off a couple of bills and slid them across. As he did, something else shifted in the wallet. For a fraction of a second, I saw an ID tucked behind a plastic window. The picture on it was him, but the name was too quick to catch. I made change, handed it to him. My hand brushed his fingers. They were colder than I expected. "Everything all right, Alex?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just tired." "You work long hours?" "Sometimes." He nodded slowly. "Living alone, working late? Gotta be careful." He picked up the flashlight, tapping it against his open palm. "You got anything at home for protection?" Tyler chimed in. "He's got a mean houseplant, if that counts." They both laughed. I managed a weak smile. The cop looked back at me. "Seriously, these nights, with everything going on?" He shook his head. "Lock your doors. Don't open them for strangers. If someone knocks and says they're a cop, ask to see ID through the peephole. You understand?" A chill skated down my spine. "Yeah, I get it." He smiled again, just a small twitch of the lips. "Good." He tapped the counter with 2 fingers. "See you around." He left, the bell over the door jingling. I watched his car through the front window. Same cruiser, same dim headlight. He got in, sat there for a moment, then drove off. Tyler whistled again, coming back to the counter. "Man, he's here a lot lately. Think he's got a crush on you." "Shut up," I said automatically. "What?" "I'm just saying," Tyler smirked. "He remembered your name." "Alex, how's the driving?" He mimicked the tone. I forced a laugh, but my heart wasn't in it. "Seriously though," Tyler said. "Guy seems solid. Makes me feel better knowing they're on top of things. Did you hear what he said about not opening the door? They must have some suspect or something." "Yeah," I said faintly. "Maybe." The rest of the day blurred. My brain kept repeating the same stuff in the background. Living alone. Lock your doors. Don't open for strangers. If someone knocks and says they're a cop, why would he say that? Why would a real cop say that like it was some special warning? Because maybe he knew exactly how easy it was to say, "Police, open up," and have someone do it. Because maybe he'd done it before. That night, I dragged one of the dining chairs into my bedroom and propped it under the door handle. It felt stupid, overdramatic. But once I did it, I felt a little better. I turned on a podcast and tried to fall asleep. My brain kept circling back to the same images. The flashlight in his hand, the road where they found the bodies, the warning about not opening the door. At some point, I drifted off. I dreamed of blue lights flashing against trees, of driving and never reaching home, of a man standing in the middle of the road, face in shadow, holding a flashlight pointed at my windshield so I couldn't see anything but light. I woke up gasping, sweat cold on my skin. There was a sound in the house. At first I thought it was still part of the dream. Then I heard it again, a dull, steady noise, like someone trying to be quiet and failing. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. I lay there, perfectly still, eyes open in the dark. The chair under the doorknob creaked softly with each tiny movement of my body. The sound came again, a faint thump from the front of the house, then a pause, then another one. Footsteps, moving slowly across my living room. Every instinct screamed at me to get up, to do something, to hide. But I couldn't move. My body felt pinned. My breathing sounded too loud in my own ears. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed against the walls. My mind raced. Maybe it was just the fridge, the house settling, a neighbor outside. Anything but what it sounded like. Then I heard the soft, unmistakable creak of the hallway floor outside my bedroom. Whoever it was already inside. I stared at the door. My eyes had adjusted enough to see the faint line of light at the bottom, a slightly lighter strip in the dark. The floor creaked again, closer. Then it stopped right outside my room. I could picture it too clearly. Someone standing on the other side of the door, listening. My mouth went dry. I wanted to grab my phone, but it was on the nightstand next to the door. To reach it, I'd have to move. I'd have to make noise. The doorknob rattled softly. Whoever was out there tried it once, twice. The chair thumped slightly as it held. They knew the door was locked now. "Alex?" a voice said quietly. "It's the police. Open up." My blood turned to ice. It was him. It had that same calm, steady tone. The one from the side of the road. The store. Friendly. Polite. Like this was all routine. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I lay there, frozen, every muscle screaming. There was a pause, then another soft rattle of the knob. "Alex, it's Officer Hart," he said. "We met the other night, remember? I pulled you over." Hart. So that was his name. Still, I said nothing. "I need you to open the door," he said. "We have some questions. It's about the incident on the highway. It's important." My mind raced. My throat burned. "If this was official," I said finally, my voice barely more than a whisper, "you'd have called first." The silence that followed felt thick. Then a soft chuckle. Not loud, not amused, just acknowledging. "You've been watching too many shows," he said. "Come on, Alex. Open the door." I stayed still. "I'm calling 911. His voice sharpened just a tiny bit. "There's no need for that." "I'm calling anyway." Another pause. The air felt like it was going to crush me. "You know what happens when you call 911, he said quietly. "They dispatch officers, and then officers show up at your house." He let that hang for a second. "You trust that process so much, don't you?" I realized suddenly that he had no radio crackling on his shoulder. I'd heard it in the store earlier that day, little bursts of static and voices. Now, nothing. "Go ahead," he said. "Call. Tell them you have a police officer at your door and you're scared of him. See how that sounds? My heart hammered. I forced my arm to move. My hand crept along the mattress, fingers searching for my phone on the nightstand. As my fingertips brushed the edge of it, the man outside the door laughed softly. I can hear you, you know. I snatched the phone and pulled it toward me, thumbing the screen. It lit up my face, the brightness painful in the dark. I pulled up the keypad and pressed the numbers with shaking fingers. Before I could hit call, there was a heavy thud against the door. The chair jolted. The door shook in its frame. Alex. His voice was still calm, but there was something beneath it now. Something harder. Open. The door. Another slam. The chair scraped across the floor. The doorknob twisted violently. I hit call. The ringing tone seemed too loud, echoing in my ear. The third hit nearly dislodged the chair. The door cracked at the top. My lungs felt like they were full of concrete. 911. What is your emergency? A woman's voice said in my ear. There's someone in my house, I whispered urgently. He says he's a cop, but he's trying to break down my bedroom door. Please hurry. Please. Stay on the line, she said, her voice suddenly focused. Can you tell me your address? I rattled it off, the numbers tumbling out. All right. We have officers on the way. Stay where you are. Is there anyone else in the house? No, just me. Another slam. The door cracked further. Splinters rained down near the bottom, making a soft ticking sound on the floor. Alex. His voice, now loud enough to cut through the phone call. Open this door right now. Do you know this person? The 911 operator asked. He says he's Officer Hart. He pulled me over the other night. My voice broke. He's not acting normal. That's okay. Just stay on the line with me. Officers are en route. She paused. I need you to find someplace safe in the room if you can. A closet, under the bed, anything you can use as cover. I looked around wildly. There wasn't much. Bed, dresser, small closet with sliding doors. The door slammed again. The chair skidded another inch. This time I heard wood splinter near the latch. The sound felt like it was inside my bones. I slid off the bed and crawled to the far side, away from the door. I wedged myself between the bed and the wall, covering my head with my free arm. Under the bed, I whispered. I'm under the bed. Good, she said. You're doing great. Stay low, stay quiet. Another hit. This one sent a shard of wood flying across the room. It skittered under the bed and bumped against my arm. Then there was a final wrenching crack. The door gave way. I saw it from my angle on the floor, just a flash of it through the gap between the bottom of the bed and the carpet. The chair toppled, scraping across the floor. The door swung inward with a groan. My breathing went shallow. I clamped a hand over my mouth. Boots stepped into the room. The toes appeared in my narrow line of sight. Heavy, black, worn. He stood there for a moment. I could hear his breathing, steady and slow. Alex, he called, his voice softer again. Where are you, kid? I pressed myself flatter against the floor, as if I could sink into it. Through the phone, The operator's voice kept murmuring, "Officers are almost there. Stay still. You're doing good." Every word felt like it was happening in some other world. His boots moved farther into the room. I heard him step around, the creak of the floorboards, the rustle of the bed sheets as he touched them. "Come on," he said. "I just want to talk. We can clear this up." Something heavy landed on the mattress. He'd sat down. The bed slats above me groaned. The sound made my teeth vibrate. "You know what I don't like, Alex?" he said. "I don't like being lied about. I don't like people calling in false reports. Makes my job harder." He sighed. "I was trying to be nice to you." His boots shifted again. The bed dipped more as he leaned forward. "Last chance," he murmured. The phone slipped in my sweaty hand. I clutched it tighter. He slid off the bed. The mattress bounced back. The boots came into my line of sight again, closer to the edge of the bed. Then there was a pause. I imagined him bending down, looking underneath. I squeezed my eyes shut. From outside, faint at first, I heard another sound. Sirens. Distant, then growing louder. He heard them too. He swore under his breath, a quiet, controlled sound. His boots moved quickly now. Out of the room, down the hall. I heard the front door slam. The house shook. The 911 operator's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. "Alex, are you still there?" "Yes," I croaked. "He left. He left." "Stay where you are. Officers are arriving on scene now. They'll announce themselves." The sirens grew louder, then cut off abruptly. I heard car doors, shouted voices, the crunch of boots on gravel. "Police!" someone yelled from outside. "If anyone is inside, announce yourself." My throat worked. I tried to shout, but my voice came out as a hoarse rasp. "Here. I'm here." The front door creaked open again, more carefully this time. I heard cautious footsteps, radios crackling. The sounds moved through the house. "Alex?" a different voice called. "It's Sergeant Miller with the police department. We got your call. Where are you?" "In the bedroom," I managed. "Down the hall." Footsteps approached. A uniformed officer appeared in the doorway, gun drawn but held low. He was older, heavier, with a graying beard. He scanned the room, then his eyes dropped. He saw me on the floor. "It's okay," he said, voice softer. "You can come out." I crawled out from under the bed, my limbs trembling so hard I almost fell. He holstered his weapon and gave me his hand, helping me up. Behind him, another officer watched the hallway, gun still drawn. His face was tight. "You all right?" the sergeant asked. I nodded, even though it wasn't true. He said he was a cop. He broke down my door. The sergeant looked at the splintered frame. His jaw clenched. "Can you describe him?" he asked. I stared at him. "You know him. He's one of you. Officer Hart." He frowned. "Hart?" "He pulled me over 2 nights ago," I said quickly. "He was here yesterday, at my work. He wears the uniform. He has a cruiser. I saw him." The two officers exchanged a look. Something passed between them that made my stomach twist. "There is no Officer Hart," the sergeant said slowly. "Not in this department." The room tilted. "That's not possible. His car, his badge. We'll need you to come down to the station," he said gently. "We'll take your statement, and we'll have someone sit outside your house for the night." I started to shake my head. "I'm not staying here." "All right," he said. "We'll figure something out." I looked at the broken door again, the splintered frame, the marks on the floor where the chair had scraped. If the sirens had taken another minute, I don't know what would have happened. Actually, I do. I just don't like thinking about it. The police station smelled like coffee, old paper, and sweat. I sat in a small interview room with beige walls and a table too big for the space. A camera blinked red in the corner. Sergeant Miller sat across from me, a notepad and a recorder in front of him. Another officer leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Someone had given me a foam cup of water. My hands shook so much it sloshed over my fingers. "Start from the beginning," Miller said. "Tell me about the first time you saw him." I told the story. The traffic stop. The second time I saw him parked in the side road. The cruiser following me into the neighborhood. The visit to the hardware store. The flashlight. His questions about whether I lived alone. What he'd said about not opening the door for cops without ID. Miller's pen scratched across the page. The other officer just watched, face hard to read. "Describe him again," Miller said. "As much detail as you can." I did. Age, height, hair, voice, the way he moved, the way he smiled. "Uniform color?" Miller asked. "Dark," I said. "Like yours. Badge here." I tapped my chest. "Name tag. I think it said Hart. I didn't get the first name. He had a radio, a flashlight. His car looked like a regular cruiser, black and white. The front right headlight was kinda dimmer than the other." Miller wrote that down, then glanced at the officer by the wall. "Sound like anybody?" The other guy shook his head. "No Hart. Not past, not present." "What about the car?" I asked. "They're numbered, right? You can check that." "We're doing that," Miller said. "We're also checking with the highway patrol, the county sheriff, and neighboring departments. So far, no one has a Hart. No one matches your description." He paused. "And no one admits to pulling you over that night." "He gave me a warning," I said. "Would he have logged that?" "Should have," Miller said. "But someone could skip it if they wanted." He tapped his pen. "We need to find that car. Once we have that, we'll have him." I looked down at my hands. "You think he's the one who... the bodies?" Miller's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "We're not drawing conclusions yet. But your statement is important." "How did he get into my house?" I asked, suddenly remembering. "The doors were locked." "Front door frame's intact," the other officer said. "Back door too. No forced entry there." "But... you have a spare key?" Miller asked. "Yeah, in a fake rock by the steps." He gave a short nod. "He probably watched you long enough to see where you hid it." The idea that he'd been watching me, hidden somewhere outside my house while I came and went, made bile creep up my throat. You're not the only one he's been watching, the officer by the wall said quietly. I looked up sharply. What do you mean? Miller shot him a quick look but didn't shut him up. We haven't released this to the public yet, Miller said. But both of the victims we found had unusual injuries. My mouth went dry. What kind of injuries? Signs of restraint, he said. Bruising on the wrists and ankles. We think they were tied up. For some time. My skin prickled. He likes control, Miller went on. He takes his time, and he knows enough about law enforcement to stage things, so it looks like something else at first glance. He wants people to feel safe when they see him. That's his angle. The other officer spoke up. Every time there's a traffic stop, people assume the guy in uniform is legit. Who would question that, right? He's using that, cruising around like he belongs out there. I swallowed. The night he pulled me over. That was near where they found the first body. Miller nodded. We're checking traffic cameras on intersecting roads, seeing if we can catch his car on a camera. But that road itself doesn't have any. He picked his hunting ground well. The word hunting made my stomach twist. So what now? I asked, voice small. He knows where I live. We're not sending you back there tonight, Miller said. Do you have family in town? Friends you could stay with? I thought about it. My parents live 2 states away. We talk on holidays. I have a cousin in town, but we haven't spoken in months. Most of my acquaintances are from work. Guys I grab a beer with sometimes. Not people I can crash with at midnight because there's a fake cop trying to murder me. Not really, I admitted. Miller sighed. We can put you up somewhere short-term. There's a motel we use sometimes. We'll have an officer outside your door. The idea of staying in a motel sounded somehow worse, like I'd be a sitting target. But the idea of going back home with that broken bedroom door was worse. Okay, I said quietly. He nodded. We'll arrange it. As I sat there, waiting for paperwork and signatures and whatever else they needed, I realized something. He was still out there, driving around in that car, wearing that uniform, right now, while I sat in this room, while real cops tried to figure out how to catch a pretend one. And he knew my name, my face, my house. He'd sat on my bed. He'd told me to lock my doors. The motel they put me in was the kind of place you stay for one night when your car breaks down. Stiff pillows, thin walls, a bathroom fan that rattled like it had something stuck in it. The room smelled faintly of stale cigarette smoke and cleaning chemicals. A patrol car parked right outside my door, visible through the thin curtain. They said they'd stay all night. I believed them. I wanted to. I lay on the bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. Every time headlights swept by on the main road, my heart jumped. I kept expecting to hear that steady knock on the door, that calm voice. Alex, it's Officer Hart. Open up. At some point, exhaustion dragged me under. My sleep was shallow and full of loud, fractured dreams. I woke with my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The sky outside the thin curtain was pale. Morning. I grabbed the phone. Unknown number. Hello? Alex? This is Sergeant Miller. His voice sounded tight, tired. My chest tightened. Yeah. Is everything okay? "We need you to come down to the station," he said. "There's been another development." My mouth went dry. "What kind of development?" "Just come down," he said. "We'll talk here." He hesitated. "We're sending a cruiser to pick you up. Don't open the door for anyone but them. They'll identify themselves by name." I sat up, heart pounding again. "Okay." The call ended. I swung my legs off the bed. The room felt smaller now, the thin curtains useless. I glanced outside. The patrol car was still there, engine idling. A uniformed officer sat inside, drinking coffee. Within 15 minutes, another cruiser pulled up behind him. A woman in uniform got out, checked her watch, then walked up to my door and knocked. "Alex," she called. "It's Officer Ramirez. Sergeant Miller sent me." I opened the curtains just enough to see her. She held up her badge, pressed flat against the glass. I saw the name, the logo. Her reflection in the glass looked tired but solid. I opened the door, my fingers tight on the latch. "Morning," she said. "Rough night?" "Yeah." "Let's get you to the station," she said. "They'll fill you in." The drive was a blur. The world outside the window looked strangely flat, like I was watching it through a screen. People walked their dogs, got coffee, went about their lives. Somewhere among them, a man in a uniform might be parked, watching. At the station, they led me back into the same interview room. Miller was already there, talking quietly to another cop. When he saw me, he gestured to the chair. "Sit," he said. "Thanks for coming in." "What happened?" I asked, throat tight. He took a breath. "We found another body." My stomach plummeted. "Where?" "In a house on Pinecrest," he said. "About 10 minutes from your place." I tried to picture Pinecrest. Quiet street, older houses, big trees. "Whose house?" "A man named Daniel Walsh," Miller said. 32. Lives alone. Or lived alone. I swallowed. How did you find him?" "Concerned neighbor called it in," Miller said. "Said they heard yelling late last night. Then nothing. This morning they saw that his front door was half open." Miller's jaw worked. He'd been dead for several hours by the time we got there. I stared at him. "And you think it's the same guy?" "We're not ready to say that officially," he said. "But there are similarities. Forced entry on the bedroom door, signs of restraint, no sign of robbery, and we found something else." He slid a photograph across the table. I hesitated, then looked. It was a picture of a hallway. The angle was slightly tilted, like it had been taken in a hurry. On the wall, next to a light switch, someone had written 2 words in thick, dark strokes. "Lock faster." My skin went cold. "Is that—" My voice broke. "It was written in the victim's blood," Miller said quietly. "Sorry. I know that's graphic. But you need to understand." I stared at the words. The letters were jagged, like whoever wrote them hadn't had much time, or much patience. "It's a message," I whispered. Miller nodded. "To us. To you. To whoever he was imagining when he wrote it." I shook my head, a helpless small motion. Why would he write that? We don't know if Walsh wrote it, Miller said. There were no defensive wounds on his hands. His fingers were intact. No blood under his nails. So Hart, whoever he really is, wrote it. Saying the name made my mouth feel wrong. Probably, Miller said. Maybe he was mocking us. Maybe he was thinking about last night. About you. I put my face in my hands. My fingers dug into my scalp. You're not responsible for this, Miller said, like he could read my thoughts. He did this. Not you. I dropped my hands. What if I hadn't called 911? What if he'd had more time? Then you'd be dead too, Miller said bluntly. And he'd still go kill someone else. That's what people like this do. People like this. Like it was a category. I tried to wrap my mind around the idea that there was more than one person on Earth who could do what he'd done. We talked to the neighbor, Miller went on. They said they saw a police car outside Walsh's house yesterday afternoon. They thought it was about the murders on the news. He looked at me. They said the officer looked normal, friendly. They didn't think to question it. I swallowed. Did they see his face? They gave a description, Miller said. Matches yours mostly, but they also mentioned something else. He flipped to another page of his notes. They said he had a small tattoo behind his left ear, Miller said. Just a glimpse when he turned his head. Looked like a little black triangle. I thought back. The traffic stop. The store. The night at my house. I'd never been close enough on his left side to see behind his ear. I didn't see that, I said. But it doesn't mean he didn't have it. Miller nodded. It's something at least. A distinguishing mark. He leaned forward. Alex, I'm going to be straight with you. We think you're the first person he's tried for and failed. My chest constricted. Failed? You're alive, he said. The others aren't. You called for help in time. That changes things. For him too. What do you mean? He's already escalating, Miller said. Frequency, boldness, attacking in the middle of the night, breaking into occupied homes, leaving messages. Now he's got a loose end. He looked me in the eye. You. The room seemed to close in. He's not going to just forget about you, Miller said. Guys like this, they hold grudges. You embarrassed him. You interrupted his plan. He'll want to fix that. So what do? I whispered. We're going to move you, Miller said. Somewhere he won't know about. We'll get you under protection. We're also going to release a sketch to the public. Get his face out there. A sketch. My brain tried to imagine it. That calm smile, those pale eyes, printed on flyers, flashing on the news, people squinting at the screen, trying to decide if they recognized him. What if he's watching the news? I asked. He will be, Miller said. They always do. He tapped his fingers on the table. We're hoping it rattles him. He'll make a mistake. It sounded like strategy, a plan. But all I could think was that I was now bait. I didn't ask to be part of this, I said, my voice cracking. I know, Miller said quietly. I'm sorry. We sat there in silence for a moment. Then he slid another paper across the table. This one was a form. At the top it said, Witness Protection. Temporary placement. Sign this, he said. We'll move you to a safe house, new location. Only a few people will know where it is. We'll keep a close eye on you. I stared at the form. The words blurred. What about my life? I asked. My job? My stuff? We'll coordinate with your employer, he said. Tell them you're involved in an ongoing investigation. As for your house, we'll have units checking on it. We might set up surveillance in case he comes back. I pictured my little white house, now turned into a trap. Cameras hidden in corners, cops watching from cars, waiting for that dim headlight to pull up again. What if he doesn't come back? I said. Then he'll go after someone else, Miller said. And we'll still be trying to catch him. Either way, we need you alive. The way he said it made me feel less like a person and more like a piece on a board. But I didn't have a better option. My hand shook as I picked up the pen. I signed. The safe house was on the far side of town, in a neighborhood I'd never had a reason to visit. It was one of those bland rental homes you never really notice. Light brown siding, small front yard, windows with generic blinds. Inside, the furniture was minimal. Couch, table, bed. It felt lived in but impersonal, like a hotel that had been disguised as a house. 2 officers were assigned to be nearby at all times. They rotated in shifts. They told me not to order food, not to use social media, not to open the door for anyone I didn't recognize. These are your new best friends, one of them joked, handing me a list of emergency numbers. I forced a smile. It didn't reach my eyes. For the first couple of days, nothing happened. I watched too much TV, the volume low. I jumped at every car door slam on the street. I paced the tiny living room until the officers gently told me I was wearing a path into the carpet. The news ran my story without naming me directly. Local resident describes terrifying encounter with suspected police impersonator. They blurred my face in the clip and used a different name, but I could hear my own voice, shaky and thin, telling the basic outline of what had happened. The sketch they showed of him was close enough that my stomach dropped when I saw it. The eyes weren't quite right, too narrow, but the jawline and hair were dead on. They added the little tattoo behind the ear based on the neighbor's description. Authorities urge anyone with information to call the tip line, the anchor said. Do not approach the suspect. He is considered extremely dangerous. I shut the TV off. At night, I lay on the unfamiliar bed, listening to the quiet. It was a different quiet than my old house. Different fridge noises, different plumbing, different creaks. But my brain still wrote him into every sound. Footsteps in the hall. A hand on the doorknob. A calm voice saying my name. I woke up sweating from dreams where he stood over my bed, smiling, while behind him, a dozen other beds held limp, faceless bodies tied down with zip ties and belts. In the dreams, he always took his time. Always. One afternoon, around 3, there was a knock on the door. I froze mid-bite of a sandwich. The officers had told me they'd always call before coming to the door. My phone hadn't rung. The knock came again. Polite. 2 short, even taps. I moved quietly to the window and peeked through the blinds. A delivery guy stood on the porch holding a package. He wore a brown uniform, logo on the chest, handheld scanner in his hand. He looked young, bored, chewing gum. My phone rang. I flinched. It was one of the officers. "Hey," he said. "That's just a parcel. We checked it. It's boring. Go ahead and sign for it." "Checked it?" I repeated. "We intercepted him at the curb," the officer said. "We're not letting anything just show up at your door unannounced. You're fine." I opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. The delivery guy smiled, held out the scanner. "Sign here." My hand shook as I scribbled my name. He handed me a box about the size of a shoebox. No return address I recognized. "Have a good one," he said, already turning to leave. I closed the door, locked it, then held the box like it was a bomb. My phone rang again. Same officer. "It's from your landlord," he said. "Spare keys, some paperwork. We already had bomb squad take a sniff. You're safe." "Could have told me that first," I muttered. He laughed. "Sorry. We forget what it's like on your side sometimes." Their side. My side. A line drawn between those who ran toward danger and those who ran from it. I'd always thought I knew which side I'd be on if it came down to it. Now I wasn't sure. Days blurred. I lost count. The only markers were visits from Miller, or short updates from officers, and the steady stream of news segments that never seemed to offer anything new. They had a few leads. Someone said they'd seen a car like his parked behind an abandoned strip mall. Someone else claimed he matched a guy they'd gone to school with. None of it panned out. Each time they said, "The suspect remains at large," my stomach knotted. One evening, Miller came by personally. He looked more tired than usual, dark circles under his eyes. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He took off his hat and placed it neatly on the table. "You holding up okay?" he asked. "Define okay," I said. He gave a humorless half smile. "Fair. Listen, I wanted to give you a heads up before you see it on the news." My throat tightened. "What now?" "We found another dumping site," he said. "Woods behind the old industrial park." I sat down hard. "Another body?" "Not this time," he said. "Just evidence, like he was practicing. There were restraints on a tree, rope marks on the bark, and we found impressions in the dirt like someone had been kneeling there for a while." My mind painted the picture without my permission. Someone tied to a tree, struggling. Someone else standing over them, taking their time. "There was something else," Miller went on. "In the dirt, a little ways away, we found where someone had written a word with a stick." He slid his phone across the table. A photo was open. Rough letters scraped in the soil. H.I. My skin crawled. "He's taunting you." "He's taunting everybody," Miller said, "but especially you." He looked at me. "You're the one that got away, Alex. He's thinking about you." It felt like a swarm of insects under my skin. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, voice shaking. "Isn't the point of a safe house to keep me from knowing how bad it is out there?" "Some people prefer to be kept in the dark," he said. "Some don't. And either way, if this escalates, you're going to see it. Better to hear it from me." I stared at the phone, at that stupid word. "What if I just left?" I said suddenly. "Went to another state, another country, changed my name? Couldn't I just disappear? If he doesn't know where I am, he can't hurt me. Miller sighed. You could. Maybe. But he's still out there, still hurting other people. And you have something we don't. What? You've seen him up close, Miller said. You've heard him speak. You've watched him move. Sketches and descriptions only go so far. Having someone who's looked a guy like that in the eye live to talk about it. That matters. A lot. I thought about his face, the way his eyes stayed flat when he smiled, the way he tilted his head when he asked if I lived alone, the way he'd said my name through the bedroom door. I'm not a hero, I said flatly. I never said you were, Miller said. You didn't choose this, but here we are. I wanted to argue with him, to tell him I didn't owe anyone anything, that my only job was to survive. But somewhere, in some quiet house, someone else was going about their night, not knowing that a man in a uniform had them in mind, that he might be sitting in a parked car down the block, watching, waiting. Is the safe house even safe? I asked. He found my house easy enough. We're being more careful now, Miller said. No routine, no visible presence. We're not broadcasting where you are to half the department. I handpicked the guys on your detail. The thought that he'd learned from his mistakes and adapted made my skin prickle. We weren't just dealing with a man who liked killing. We were dealing with someone intelligent enough to think ahead. Miller stood. I'll let you get some rest. We're doing everything we can. I know that sounds like the usual line, but it's true. I nodded. I know you are. He picked up his hat, paused. If he contacts you in any way, call us immediately. No hesitation, no matter how small it seems. How would he contact me? I asked. You said not to use my phone except for you guys. There are always ways, he said. He might send something, leave something nearby. These guys like feeling clever. After he left, the house felt quieter than before. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. 2 nights later it broke. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, counting my own breaths. At some point, around when the world outside felt the emptiest, I got up and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. The tap squeaked loudly as I turned it. The water ran clear, then cloudy, then clear again. I filled the glass, turned off the tap. That's when I noticed the envelope. It was on the counter under the window. I was sure it hadn't been there before. Plain white, folded neatly. No name on it. I set the glass down, my hands suddenly numb. Slowly, I picked up the envelope. It wasn't sealed, just tucked. The paper felt slightly damp, like it had been outside. There was no way it could be there. I hadn't opened the door. The windows were closed. The officers outside would have seen anyone approach. My phone buzzed on the table. I jumped. It was one of the officers on watch. Don't open it, he said before I could speak. What? My voice came out thin. We saw him, the officer said. On the camera just now. He came up the side of the house, stayed low under the window, slipped something through a crack in the frame. We're on it. Don't touch that envelope. My legs nearly gave out. He was here. He's gone now, the officer said. We're canvassing the area. Just step away from the counter. I dropped the envelope like it had burned me and backed up until my shoulders hit the fridge. Within seconds, there was a knock at the door. Rapid, urgent. "Alex, it's Ramirez. It's us. Let us in." I checked through the peephole. 2 officers, faces I recognized. Ramirez and another guy whose name I'd forgotten, both tense. I opened the door, then stepped back as they came in quickly, guns out. One of them went straight to the kitchen, eyes on the window. The other stayed with me, ushering me away from the counter. "Where is it?" Ramirez asked. "There," I said, pointing with a shaking hand. She approached it like it might explode, then used a pen to slide it into a clear evidence bag. Up close, I could see that the envelope had faint smudges on it. Dirt, maybe, or something else. "Confirm we have the envelope," she said into a radio. "Suspect dropped and fled. No contact with resident." The other officer checked the window frame. "Damn," he muttered. He pried it just enough to slip it in. Quiet. Fast. "Any footage?" Ramirez asked. "Grainy," he said. "Dark clothes, ball cap. He stayed low. But you can see the car in the street for a second when he pulls away. Same profile as before." My heart hammered against my ribs. "What's in it?" I asked. "We'll open it at the lab," Ramirez said. "But I can guess it's not a coupon." "Let me see," I said. She shook her head. "You're not touching this. No prints. No fibers. This is our best shot at physical evidence." I swallowed. He knew where I was. "Someone always does," she said quietly. "We do our best to keep it tight, but nothing's perfect. The important part is you're alive, and we have something he touched." It took hours for word to come back about what was inside. Miller returned, holding a second evidence bag. Inside it was a folded piece of lined notebook paper. He placed it on the table carefully. The writing was visible through the plastic. "Hey, Alex, you didn't lock fast enough. My blood ran cold." "That's not true," I said, my voice shaking. "I locked. I did everything you said." "He's screwing with you," Miller said. "He wants you rattled." Under the words, there was something else. A small, rough sketch. A crude little drawing of a house with a car parked in front of it. A stick figure in the window. I stared at the figure. The little dot where the eye should be. "He's watching," I whispered. "Yeah," Miller said. "But so are we." He put the bag back down, his expression tight. "From now on," he said, "you don't go anywhere alone, not even the bathroom. Ramirez and her team will be with you at all times." I laughed, a short, hysterical sound. "Great, that's normal." "Normal's gone," Miller said simply. "At least for a while." I pressed my hands to my face. I could feel my pulse hammering in my fingertips. "What's the plan?" I asked. "You can't just keep me in this box forever." "We're going to use this," he said, tapping the bag. The writing, the envelope, the way he approached the house. Camera's got a partial plate on his car. Between that and the sketch we already have out there. He exhaled. "We might actually have something concrete soon." "Might," I repeated. He met my gaze. "I can't promise you anything except that we're not giving up." It wasn't enough. But it was all there was. The way it ended wasn't cinematic. There were no dramatic shootouts, no big confession, just a series of small breaks that finally lined up. They found the car first, abandoned in a parking garage downtown, 2 levels underground. Someone had scrubbed it, but not well enough. Under the seats, they found traces of blood that matched one of the earlier victims. The VIN led to a long chain of fake registrations, but eventually, buried in the paperwork, there was a real name. Gavin Hart. The name on the ID I'd seen for a fraction of a second in his wallet. The name he'd given me through the bedroom door, like a taunt. He wasn't a cop. He'd applied years ago, failed the psych eval. He'd worked private security for a while, then bounced between jobs. Somewhere along the way, he'd gotten very interested in law enforcement procedures, training manuals, scanner apps, surplus uniforms. They found a storage unit under one of his fake names. Inside, there were more uniforms, more pieces of old police cars, more equipment, zip ties, duct tape, plastic sheeting. It made my stomach turn just hearing about it. They almost caught him there. A guy matching his description was seen walking toward the storage facility, then bolting when he saw the parked cruisers. What finally did it was something stupid, mundane. He bought gas. They'd flagged certain credit card numbers connected to the fake registrations. One of them pinged at a gas station 40 minutes out of town. Cameras caught him walking into the store, cap low, jacket zipped up. But you could see the jawline, the tattoo behind his ear, the way he moved. By the time officers got there, he was gone. But his car, a different one, older, red, was caught on a traffic camera heading toward the old industrial park. Miller and a whole cluster of units were there within half an hour. I wasn't there. I heard about it in pieces. Radio static in the background of Miller's voice. Ramirez's tight recounting of events. They found another scene he was setting up. Another tree with rope marks. Another place where he'd been planning to invite someone into his little world of control and fear. This time, he didn't get the chance. He tried to slip away when he saw the cruisers, tried to blend into the trees, tried to reach for something in his jacket when they cornered him. They tackled him. He fought, but not very well. It seemed like he was used to victims who didn't fight back. Or couldn't. He had a knife in his jacket, a small revolver in his waistband, a folded piece of paper in his pocket with an address on it. Not my house. Not the safe house. Someone else. Someone who would never know how close they'd come. His face in the booking photo looked different from the way I remembered it. Bruised. More human. Less in control. But the eyes were the same. When they asked him about me, about the night at my house, at first he denied everything. Then he smiled, that calm smile I knew too well, and said, if he'd just opened the door, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They didn't let me in the courtroom when he was arraigned. Too many cameras. Too much noise. I watched it on a TV in a back room, with Ramirez sitting beside me. He stood there in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, listening as they listed the charges. Murder, kidnapping, assault, impersonating an officer. The list went on. At one point, the camera zoomed in. For a second, his eyes seemed to flick past the judge, past the lawyers, past the crowd, and land on the camera lens. It felt like he was looking right at me. I know that's not how cameras work. I know he couldn't see me through that screen. But I still felt it. A weight. A connection. I tried to look away. I couldn't. Later they asked me if I wanted to testify, to speak at his trial, to talk about what he did to me, what he almost did. I said no at first. I was tired. Done. I didn't want to think about him anymore, let alone stand in the same room. But I kept thinking about the envelope on the counter, the note in the hallway of that other man's house, the words scratched in the dirt. H.I. Hey, Alex. He liked feeling like he had the last word, the last move. So I changed my mind. I stood in the witness box months later, my hands still faintly damp from the oath. He sat at the defense table, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit, clean-shaven, hair trimmed, no uniform, no badge, no flashlight. Just a man. I told the story. The traffic stop. The store. The night in my bedroom. The note in the safe house. My voice shook, but it didn't break. I forced myself to meet his eyes once. Just once. He stared back, his face neutral. For the first time, there was something else in his expression. Not anger, not fear, just irritation, like I'd inconvenienced him. I wanted that look burned into my memory more than any other. When it was over, when the guilty verdicts came in, when the sentence was read out, people cried and hugged and clapped. I sat there feeling empty, like I'd left part of myself in that bedroom, under that bed, in that moment when the door splintered. Life didn't magically go back to normal. My house never felt like home again. I moved eventually to a different place, different neighborhood, with more neighbors and thicker doors. I kept the chair under the bedroom doorknob for months, even though I had better locks. I still get pulled over sometimes. Everyone does, eventually. Burnt out taillight, rolling a stop sign, speeding on an empty road. The first time it happened after all this, my hands shook so hard I could barely roll down the window. The officer, a woman around my age, asked if I was okay. I just nodded, even though it wasn't true. I asked to see ID now. Every time. I watch how they move, what their eyes do. I listen for the small things in their voice. So far, they've all been real. Or at least real enough. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake and think about how easy it was for him to put on that uniform, to put a light bar on a car, to learn the right words to say. How fast my brain jumped from scared to relieved the first time I saw those blue lights. Because authority means safety, right? Because a badge is supposed to stand for something. I think about how, even now, if a stranger pounded on my door and shouted, "Police, open up," a piece of me would want to obey. That piece is hardwired, taught. But there's another piece now. The one that hears banging at the door and remembers a calm voice saying my name through thin wood. The one that remembers the sound of a door cracking under repeated blows. That piece wins more often. I lock my doors. I check again before bed. And I always ask to see ID through the peephole. When people ask, I tell them he's gone, that he'll spend the rest of his life in a box, watched by other men in uniforms, that they caught him, and that's the end of the story. But they don't really want the story. Not the real one. They want the headline, the fast version, the part where the bad guy loses and the good guys win. The real story is slower. It lives in small things. A chair under a doorknob, a hand hovering over a lock, the way your heart stutters when you see blue lights in your rearview mirror. The real story is that sometimes the monster pretends to be the person you're supposed to trust most. And sometimes you only get one chance to realize the difference. I got mine, barely.